Quite honored to be sharing this podium with two very special people to me. The first one is Abdul Latif Al-Hamad. He's the one that dragged me, literally, kicking and screaming to study economics. And the other is Shanta, who taught me computable general equilibrium modeling. So I'm quite honored to be sharing this podium. I discovered that they are, to be a credible prophet and to pontificate the spirit of economics, this dismal science, you have to have two hands to make a prediction. On the one hand, the sky is falling, and the second is Armageddon is around the corner. These are basically always the economists' kind of predictions. And if you look at the most two famous statements, in the long run, we are all dead, which is not very inspiring. And the other is, there is no free lunch, which is quite depressing. So I will try to take off my economist qitra and put on my diplomat qitra and to be a little bit optimist in presenting my my remarks.
Qitra is the equivalent of a hat. This is qitra, so for those who don't know it.
So before I start, let's take to sum up of what we have learned over the past day and a half. We know that we have learned that there is something associated with resource-rich Arab economies, and we have learned, as we have seen this morning earlier in this session, that the resource curse is something that deals with things which is broader than economic issues. It's more of a socio-political aspects and institutional aspects, while the other aspect of this resource rich phenomena is a Dutch disease, which is basically economic, purely economic adjustment process. We, in the resource curse, there are two primary channels through which economies are affected. The rent-seeking behavior of elites in the resource-rich economies, which often involves corruption and the unequal distribution of income, and also the nature of the resource wealth that accrue to government, as we have seen, gives the government independence from its constituency, and that reduces the necessary political checks and balances in the political system, which is, in other words, it relates to democracy. That's the resource curse. The cure for that is strengthening the institutions. If you have a weak institution, then you have more corruption, violence, disrespect to property rights, uncertainty, which translates at the end to lower economic growth. And this is where Ibrahim and Kamyar yesterday showed us with their nice regression analysis how the instability or the resource credibility have a direct impact on economic growth. Now, with respect to the Dutch disease that we have talked about, we have seen, also learned, that the two principal channels of resource of the Dutch disease impact on economic activities is the volatility and cyclicality of government revenues, and the other one is the real appreciation and loss of competitiveness. I would like to present a positive story that not all and the resource-rich economies would have a negative that the resource would have a negative impact on economic development, I would present a good case I would be optimist and would present a good case of a resource-rich economy that are successful. And the case that I'm presenting is my country, Kuwait. Kuwait, as you know, we have avoided the real appreciation, if you will, by conducting most of our activities outside the country, globally. We have been always a global player. We opted for a massive global expansion of our oil-related activities. Kuwait followed a value chain optimization strategy, which means extracting more value out of 1 barrel of oil in every process of production. In other words, from the exploration all the way through transportation, refining, and retail sale. Currently, Kuwait produces oil and gas in 60 fields in 14 countries around the world. We are the second largest gas producer in Pakistan and own and operate 2 LNG projects in Australia. We have offices in Perth, Jakarta, Istanbul, Cairo, Tunis, and Norway. Moreover, we have 2 European refineries and a new grassroots refinery in Vietnam that will run exclusively on Kuwait crude. More refineries are in the process. We are building more refineries in China and India. Over 5,000 gas stations throughout Europe under the Q8 band are active, and they are active in more than 72 airports around the world, from Australia all the way to Europe. Petrochemical side, we have plants in Canada, Bahrain, and Vietnam, and we are in the process of building strategic reserves in India, Vietnam, Oman, and other countries. So most of our economic activities we have placed outside. We expanded our oil-related activities, and that has minimized the real appreciation aspect of the Dutch disease on the Kuwaiti economy. With respect to the volatility and cyclicality of the oil revenues, we have created the Sovereign Wealth Fund. It was first created actually 60 years ago, 1955, way before the independence of Kuwait. And the British gave us diplomatic immunity for that fund. And it's called the Kuwait Investment Office, KIO, which still exists in London. After the independence in Kuwait, and exactly a few years after the independence in 1976, we formalized that status of our sovereign fund wealth by initiating or implementing a law to establish fund for future generation, and which is the theoretical idea is that we look at the Kuwaiti economy as 2 different economies, one for current generation and the other for future generation. The current generation pay tax to future generation at the rate of 10% of oil revenues. So in that sense, we have 2 separate economies operating independently. Thanks to the one sitting on my left, our host, who had the wisdom of creating an institution to handle that strategy. And during his watch, that the Kuwait Investment Authority, which is responsible for managing Kuwait wealth, be it for the current generation or the future generation, is entrusted to the Kuwait Investment Authority that was established by Mr. Abdul Latif Al-Hamid. This was a very successful strategy. Kuwait is ranked 3rd in terms of the size of its sovereign wealth fund. Norway has 873 billion, followed by Abu Dhabi, 773 billion. Kuwait is about 600 billion, and Qatar is about 250 billion dollars. We think that we have ameliorated the negative aspects of this resource curse, if you will, through following a very transparent political system. We have quite a vibrant political institutions, regulatory institution, oversight institutions, and our parliament, which is just a couple of miles east of here, yesterday was deliberating the idea of bringing down the government. So this is a very lively city, and we think that we have done quite well on both the resource curse, which by building our institutions, strengthening our institution, and also by avoiding the most severe aspects of the Dutch disease by diversifying our income outside the realm of the local geography of Kuwait. I think I exhausted my 15 minutes. Thank you.